Now to the disorder on Capitol Hill after House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted in a revolt by a small group of conservatives. Very little House business can be conducted until a new speaker is elected, and the events of the last few days show how truly broken our government is, so hopelessly gridlocked that it can't address the country's real problems such as high prices, soaring interest rates, and the southern border crisis. We're joined now by Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna from California. Congressman Khanna, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Joe, always good to be on.
You've said before that Americans believe Congress is truly broken and that we need to clean up the mess, the lobbyists, the fundraising, the members forced to worry about getting elected or reelected every 2 years. So what changes would you make to the system that could really make a difference?
Joe, simple 5 points. 1, let's ban all lobbyists and PAC money into Congress. 2, let's ban members of Congress from becoming lobbyists. I shouldn't be able to sit on the Armed Services Committee and then go lobby for Raytheon. Let's ban members from trading stock. Let's make sure that we have some kind of term limits, both for members of Congress and senators and Supreme Court justices. The interesting thing is Representative Gates, who's a Republican, actually just tweeted out that he agrees with these reforms and that whoever the new speaker is should adopt at least 3 of them.
And we could spend, Congressman, an entire show just on that first answer that you answered there. But let's switch gears here and let's look at the current race for Speaker. Speaking of Gates, the candidates are trying to unify the Republican Party after the extremely disruptive vote earlier this week to oust the Speaker. Here's one leading candidate, Congressman Jim Jordan.
Any differences that exist in the Republican Party pale in comparison to the differences between us and the radical left, which now unfortunately controls the Democrat Party. We had better stick together. We had better come together to fight for the things that make our country the greatest nation ever and the things the American people elected us to do.
So, Congressman, after you hear that, are you concerned that the next speaker is going to face sort of the same nasty divisions and intractable issues that brought down McCarthy? And can anyone right now govern in the current House of Representatives, in your opinion?
I know Jim Jordan. My wife's family's from Ohio. The challenge is not an individual. The challenge is the structure. And what we need to make sure is not just the structural reforms of getting big money out of politics that I talked about earlier, but also making sure we don't have a shutdown. Can we at least agree for these next 15 months have some mechanism that will ensure that right before Thanksgiving, we're not going to replay this and have a shutdown? And that, to me, is the more important thing for the Republican Congress conference to figure out. How are they going to make sure that government is functional for the next 15 months?
Well, you're old enough to certainly remember what they did in the 80s and what they did in the 90s. They did it through Reagan. They did it in the Clinton era as well, getting along for the American public. You've also said, Congressman, that Congress lacks the self-awareness needed to understand that Americans' real concerns aren't about who the Speaker of the House is right now, but things like rising cost of food and gas and heat. So my question to you is, what will it take for Congress to get a reality check on what the American public really needs and cares about right now?
I don't know about you, Joe, but when I go home and talk to folks, what they're saying is our groceries are still twice as expensive. Gas, especially in California, is almost $5.50, $6. Interest rates are high, and that means credit card bills are higher. It's hard to buy a house. Rents are too high. And what they want us to do is figure out, what are we doing to provide relief for their economic conditions? What are we doing to create good paying jobs? They don't really care about this mess. And, you know, you've got the Democrats who get on and say it's all the Republicans' fault. The Republicans get on and say it's the Democrats' fault. Now, obviously, I don't think it's a moral equivalence, but I'll tell you what, the American people don't want to hear it. They want to hear, what are you doing for them? And I wish we were focused on that.
And we know that you're pro-business, so we'd love to have you back on to get some of the ideas of what you would do and what you have suggested to your fellow colleagues. So we appreciate you being on, Congressman Khanna. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.